The conference room on Station Omega-7 was cold. Everything about the Empire was cold. Their ships, their stations, even their diplomats seemed to radiate a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Ambassador Park sat at the negotiating table, trying to keep his expression neutral. Across from him, Commander lounged in his seat like he owned the universe. Between them, surrounded by 6 armed guards, stood Captain. Looked terrible. His uniform was torn and dirty. Dark circles hung under his eyes. Burn marks covered his arms where the shock collar had been tested. But he stood straight, shoulders back, eyes forward. He hadn't said a word since being brought into the room 30 minutes ago. Had known for 10 years. They'd served together on New before switched to diplomatic service. He knew as a quiet man, a good soldier, a devoted father. He also knew what service records said in the classified sections, the parts that made senior officers nervous. "The human will be released," said, his translator device rendering his clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless words. "After appropriate submission protocols are observed." Felt his stomach tighten. "We agreed to a simple exchange, 3 prisoners for Captain." "The agreement stands," replied. "But the human must demonstrate acceptance of authority. It is our way." "What does that mean?" Gestured to one of his guards. The guard held up a small device that looked like a remote control. "Your captain wears our compliance collar. Before release, he must endure the standard test. 3 pulses. If he remains standing and silent, we release him. If he falls or cries out, the test continues until he passes." Stood up, "Absolutely not. That wasn't part of our agreement." "Then there is no agreement." His face didn't change. His species didn't have much in the way of expressions that humans could read, but could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "The human remains our prisoner." Behind, someone tugged on his jacket. He looked down. Stared up at him with serious brown eyes. The 8-year-old girl wore a small blue dress and had her black hair pulled back in a ponytail. Bringing her had been a mistake. Had thought this would be a simple prisoner exchange, over in an hour. Hadn't seen his daughter in 3 months. Had wanted to give them a reunion, not subject the child to whatever this was turning into. "Uncle," whispered, but her whisper carried in the quiet room. "Tell them to stop. My dad's about to do the thing." Several of the guards made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter, leaned forward. "The young human thinks to frighten us. How primitive." Felt sweat on his palms. He knew exactly what meant by the thing. Every senior officer who'd served with knew about it. There were reports, videos, incident files sealed at the highest classification levels. "Commander," said carefully, "I strongly advise against this course of action." "Your advice is noted and rejected," nodded to the guard with the remote. "Begin." The guard pressed a button. His whole body went rigid, every muscle locked. His jaw clenched so hard could hear teeth grinding together. The shock lasted 3 seconds. When it ended, swayed but didn't fall. His eyes remained forward, but something in them had changed. They were darker somehow, emptier. "Adequate," said, "second pulse." "Stop this," demanded. "You're making a mistake." "We are establishing proper hierarchy," replied. "Your species must learn its place in the galactic order." Pulled on his jacket again. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at her father. "Uncle, please tell them." The guard pressed the button again. This shock lasted longer. 5 seconds. Made a sound deep in his throat, something between a growl and a groan. His knees bent slightly, but he didn't fall. When the shock ended, his breathing was ragged. His hands, restrained behind his back, had formed fists so tight that his knuckles had gone white. But it was his eyes that made his blood run cold. They weren't looking at anything anymore. They were looking through everything. Had seen that look before, once, in a video taken 10 years ago on a pirate station. In that video, those same empty eyes had been the last thing 14 people saw before they died. "Stop," said, but his voice came out weak. Stood up from his seat. He walked around the table until he stood directly in front of. Your species is weak, primitive. You feel pain too easily. You break too quickly. This is why there will always be your superiors. Let go of his jacket. The little girl walked forward, past the negotiating table, past the guards, until she stood between and her father. She had to tilt her head back to look up at the commander. He was nearly 8 feet tall. I'm warning you, said. Her voice was calm and clear. Try that again and he'll tear the floor. More of that translated laughter from the guards. Looked down at the small human child. Tear the floor. Is this a human joke? It's not a joke, said. She walked back to and took his hand. I tried to tell you. Returned to his position. He picked up the remote control himself. One more pulse. Maximum setting. If the human passes this, he goes free. If he fails, we continue until he learns. Commander, tried one last time. I am formally requesting you stop this procedure. In the name of diplomatic relations between our species, I'm begging you to reconsider. Request held up the remote so everyone could see it. His finger hovered over the button. Let all gathered here witness the proper hierarchy of the galaxy. Looked at, his old friend's face had gone completely blank. Not peaceful, not calm, just empty. It was like looking at a machine that was still running but had no one home inside. Pulled on's hand, making him bend down. She whispered in his ear, when it starts, get everyone away from Dad except Uncle. Only Uncle can stop it once it starts. And don't look scared. It upsets Dad when he comes back and people are scared. Before could respond, walked away from him. She sat down on the floor against the wall, far from the center of the room. She put her small hands over her ears. Then she closed her eyes. I tried to warn you, she said softly. Press the button. For exactly 4 seconds, nothing happened except his body going rigid again. His face showed nothing. He made no sound. Then something changed. The restraints holding his wrists behind his back made a sharp cracking sound. Metal pieces scattered across the floor. Hands came around to his sides, moving slowly, deliberately. He reached up and touched the shock collar around his neck. The collar exploded into pieces. Took a step back. How? His head turned. Those empty, terrible eyes focused on the commander. When spoke, his voice sounded wrong. Too flat, too quiet, too certain. You should have listened to my daughter. Then Captain, nicknamed the Honey Badger by everyone who knew what he could become, took his first step forward. The floor under his foot cracked. Grabbed his communicator. His hands shook as he screamed into it. Emergency. Get Commander here immediately. It's gone full Badger. I repeat, full Badger protocol. Somewhere in the station, alarms began to sound. 10 years earlier, New Colony was a nice place. 15,000 settlers from Earth, mostly Korean families, had built farms and small towns across 3 continents. The weather was good. The soil was rich. People were happy. Then the pirates came. Lieutenant had been stationed at the colony's main defense post for 6 months. He worked with demolitions, setting up defensive mines and teaching settlers how to use emergency explosives if they needed to clear rock or defend their homes. It was supposed to be easy duty, a quiet post before his daughter was born. His best friend, Lieutenant, ran communications. They shared a small apartment in the capital city. On weekends, they'd cook together and argue about sports teams back on Earth that neither of them would ever see play again. The pirate fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning. 17 ships. They wanted the colony's food stores and water processing equipment. The colony garrison had 50 soldiers and 2 defensive satellites. The fight lasted 4 hours. At the end, the pirates had taken the colony and its unit had been captured. Remembered that first day in the pirate holding cells. Had been calm. He'd kept everyone's spirits up. He'd reminded them that rescue would come. The colony had sent distress signals before the satellites were destroyed. Fleet would arrive in a week, maybe 2. The pirates had other ideas. They wanted to know about Earth's military protocols, about defense systems, about fleet movements. Most of all, they wanted access codes to the colony's database. They asked nicely for about an hour. Then they stopped asking nicely. The torture room was a cargo hold they'd converted. Cold metal walls, bright lights, and devices that sent electricity through a person's body until they screamed. The pirates called them compliance tools. They used them on 3 soldiers before they brought in. Had watched through the holding cell's camera feed. The pirates didn't know the humans had hacked into their security system. Everyone saw what happened too. For 3 days they shocked him. They asked questions. He didn't answer. They increased the power. He passed out. They woke him up and did it again, over and over. 72 hours with maybe 4 hours of sleep total. On the 3rd day, something changed. Stopped passing out. His eyes went strange, empty. He stopped responding to questions or shocks or anything else. The pirates thought they'd broken his mind. They decided to get rid of him and move on to the next prisoner. That's when broke the restraints. Still had nightmares about what the cameras recorded. Moved like something that didn't feel pain anymore. Like a machine with only one purpose: survive and eliminate threats. The pirates shocked him again and again. It didn't matter. He kept coming. His hands were his first weapons, then pieces of broken restraints, then parts of the room itself. The cargo hold had reinforced walls rated to hold 10 tons of pressure, tore pieces off like they were paper. He used metal panels as shields when the pirates started shooting. He used support beams as clubs. 14 pirates were in that room when it started. 14 pirates died. When the other prisoners broke out and found him was sitting in the wreckage. He was covered in blood, none of it his own. His hands were still moving, still ready to fight, but his eyes were somewhere else, somewhere far away. Had gone in alone. He'd learned later that was incredibly stupid. Every other soldier had been terrified to approach, but had walked right up to his friend and sat down next to him. "Hey," had said quietly, "it's over, you won, everyone's safe." It had taken 20 minutes. Didn't respond at first, just kept staring at nothing, but kept talking. About home, about the apartment they shared, about the meal they'd planned to cook that weekend, about's girlfriend back on Earth who was pregnant with his first child. Slowly, awareness came back to his eyes. First confusion, then horror when he saw what he'd done, then exhaustion so complete he collapsed into his arms. The military psychologists had spent weeks studying the incident. They did brain scans and stress tests and interviews. They gave it an official designation: dissociative survival response. In simple terms, when pushed past a certain point of pain or stress, his brain disconnected from fear, from pain, from everything except the absolute need to survive and protect. One psychologist had called it becoming a honey badger. Those small Earth animals that didn't know how to quit, didn't understand fear, and would fight anything no matter the size. The nickname stuck. The military had wanted to study more, maybe train him, maybe weaponize whatever made him different, had refused. He wanted out. He wanted to meet his daughter. He wanted a normal life. They'd let him leave, but they'd kept files, videos, reports, all classified at the highest levels, and they'd added one note to his permanent record: do not deploy in torture scenarios. Subject's response creates diplomatic complications. Had read those files when he'd transferred to diplomatic service. He'd thought they were exaggerated. Military propaganda. No one could really tear apart a reinforced cargo hold with their bare hands. Now, standing in the conference room, watching break free from restraints that should have held him, realized the files hadn't been exaggerated at all. If anything, they'd been understated. Took another step toward. The floor cracked again under his foot, not because he was heavy, but because his body was somehow generating force that shouldn't be possible, like every muscle was working at maximum capacity all at once. The guards raised their weapons. energy rifles that could punch through ship hulls. They fired. The bolts hit in the chest. He staggered but didn't fall. Smoke rose from the burn marks on his uniform. He kept walking. Backed away, his confidence gone. "What are you?" Didn't answer. He grabbed the conference table, solid metal weighing at least 300 pounds. He lifted it like it was made of foam. Then he threw it. The table hit 3 guards, sending them flying backward into the wall. Ran for the door. Moved faster. He grabbed the commander by his uniform collar and lifted him off the ground with one hand. For a moment, thought would kill him right there. His hand was around's throat. It would be so easy. But then's other hand moved. He tore the remote control from's belt. He crushed it into pieces. The shock devices on the other human prisoners in the room sparked and fell off. Dropped, who collapsed gasping on the floor. Then turned to the wall. The reinforced wall made of composite materials designed to survive weapons fire and explosive decompression. He put his hands against it. His fingers found the seam where 2 panels connected, and he pulled. The shriek of tearing metal filled the room. The panel came away from the wall in one piece, held it like a shield. Energy bolts from the guards hit it and deflected away. Private Lee, one of the freed prisoners, grabs arm. "Sir, we need to get the child out and find Commander now." Looked at, the little girl still sat against the wall with her hands over her ears and her eyes closed. She looked calm, like this was normal, like she'd seen this before. "How often does this happen?" asked. "Twice in 10 years that we know about. Once on Nu, once during the border war when his transport ship was boarded," pulled toward the door. "Both times, Commander was the only one who could bring him back. We need here or this gets much worse." More guards poured into the room from the far entrance, 20 of them in full combat armor. They formed a line and opened fire all at once. Charged them. He used the torn wall panel as both shield and weapon. Energy bolts sparked off it. When he reached the guards, he swung the panel like a giant bat. 5 guards went down. He dropped the panel and moved to hand-to-hand combat. Had seen combat training. He'd seen professional fighters. He'd seen soldiers in battle. What did wasn't like any of that. There was no style, no technique, just devastating efficiency. Block, strike, move, every motion designed to disable or destroy. A guard tried to shock him with a stun baton, took it from him and broke it in half. Another guard tried to tackle him, threw him across the room into a wall. The wall cracked. The floor under their feet started buckling from the impacts. Metal supports showed through broken tiles. The station's automated systems began blaring warnings about structural damage. Lee organized the other freed prisoners. They formed a protective circle around, not engaging in the fight. They all knew the protocol. Let handle the threats. Protect the child. Wait for. Got on his communicator again. "Where is Commander?" "Docking now," came the response. 60 seconds. 60 seconds felt like an hour. Had disabled or injured 43 guards. The conference room looked like a war zone. The beautiful diplomatic space with its fancy furniture and decorative art was now broken metal and shattered glass. And in the center of it all, Captain stood among the wreckage, his empty eyes scanning for more threats. His breathing was steady. He showed no signs of exhaustion. The burns on his chest from the energy weapons didn't seem to bother him at all. This was the honey badger. This was what happened when you pushed a human past their breaking point. This was why the classified files had warned against torture. The door opened. Commander walked in, stepped over an unconscious guard and surveyed the damage. He looked then at the destroyed room. "I leave you alone for 3 hours, said calmly, "and this happens." He walked toward his friend. Commander had experienced many strange moments in his military career, but walking into a destroyed diplomatic conference room while his best friend stood in the center covered in other people's blood was becoming uncomfortably familiar. This was the third time. He'd hoped there wouldn't be a third time. The station's alarm system screamed warnings about structural damage and hull breaches. Emergency lights flashed red. Smoke from damaged electrical systems hung in the air. 43 guards lay scattered around the room in various states of unconsciousness. The floor looked like something had tried to dig through it. In several places, the metal plating had been bent upward or torn away completely. Stood in the middle of the chaos, perfectly still. His eyes were empty. His hands were steady. He was scanning the room for more threats, operating on pure survival instinct with no conscious thought behind it. Had studied the medical reports. He knew what was happening inside's head right now. Or rather, what wasn't happening. The normal human fear response had shut down. Pain signals weren't reaching his conscious mind. All higher reasoning had been suspended. What remained was the most primitive part of the brain, the ancient survival mechanism that predated human civilization by millions of years. It made extremely dangerous. It also made him extremely fragile in a different way. In this state, he couldn't distinguish between real threats and imagined ones. He couldn't recognize friends. He was operating on threat assessment alone, and right now, everything looked like a threat. Walked slowly into the room, keeping his hands visible. He stepped over debris and avoided the groaning guards. He didn't look at directly. Direct eye contact would trigger a response. Instead, he kept his gaze soft, his movements calm. "Hey," said quietly. He didn't shout. Loud noises would be interpreted as aggression. "It's I'm here now." His head tilted slightly. Not recognition, just awareness that something was making sound. His body remained tense, ready to fight. Behind, Ambassador watched with horror. He'd never seen anything like this. The guards who were still conscious were trying to crawl away, had disappeared, probably running to call for reinforcements. Took another step closer. "Remember the apartment on New? Remember that terrible couch we found at the used furniture store? You said it was comfortable. I said it looked like it had been through a war." No response from, but he hadn't attacked yet. That was progress. "Turns out we were both right," continued, taking another slow step. He was now 10 feet away. It was comfortable, and it had been through a war. The previous owner was a combat medic who apparently never cleaned anything. Kept his voice steady, conversational. He was telling stories, reminding of their shared history, giving his friend's brain something familiar to hold onto, a path back to consciousness. "You're on Station Omega 7, said. "You were being held prisoner, the shocked you. You defended yourself, everyone's safe now. The mission is complete." Blinked once, then twice. It was the first sign of higher brain function returning. "Here," added. "She's safe. She's being protected by and the others. She needs her dad, not the honey badger. She needs you to come back." At his daughter's name, something shifted in his eyes. Not awareness yet, but a flicker. A moment of connection to something beyond the immediate need to fight and survive. Press the advantage. Warned them, you know. She told them not to shock you again. She said you'd tear the floor. She was right. He gestured at the damaged floor. She's always right about you. More blinking from. His breathing changed slightly. Still elevated, but not the mechanical rhythm of pure survival mode. His hands relaxed a fraction. "I brought your jacket," lied. He hadn't brought anything except himself, but details helped. Specific, normal details. "The blue one you like, wanted you to have it when we got you out. She picked it out this morning." Lips moved. No sound came out, but it was movement, response, communication. Was now 5 feet away. Close enough to be in extreme danger if suddenly attacked. Far enough to have a chance to dodge. He kept talking. "Do you remember the first meal we cooked in that apartment? You tried to make kimchi stew. Used way too much. I couldn't taste anything for 2 days." A sound from, not a word. Just a small exhale that might have been the beginning of a laugh. "Has your sense of humor," said. "Last week, she told me a joke about a space pirate and a broken translator. It didn't make any sense, but she laughed for 10 minutes, just like you used to. His eyes focused, actually focused. On recognition flooded his face, followed immediately by confusion. He looked down at his hands. They were covered in blood, not his own. He looked around the room, at the unconscious guards, at the destroyed furniture, at the torn floor. Horror replaced the confusion. His voice cracked. What did I? His legs gave out, caught him before he hit the ground. All the strength that had let fight 50 trained soldiers and tear through reinforced metal vanished in an instant. The survival response had burned through his body's resources like a fire through paper. Now the price came due. I've got you, said, lowering his friend to the floor. You're okay. Everyone's okay. She's safe, look. Pointed across the room, had opened her eyes when she heard her father's voice. She ran across the broken floor, dodging debris and unconscious guards, tried to stop her, but the little girl was too fast. She threw herself at her father, wrapping her arms around his neck. Dad, you came back. Held her with shaking hands. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry you had to see. It's okay, said into his shoulder. Uncle brought you back. You always come back when he talks to you. I didn't want you to be scared. Pulled back to look at him. I'm not scared of you, Dad. I was scared for you. The bad aliens hurt you. You were protecting us. Medical teams rushed into the room. They headed for the guards first, scanning for life-threatening injuries. Private Lee pushed through to reach. She had a medical kit in her hands. Let me check you out, sir, she said. Tried to shake his head but held him still. Let her work. Scanned him with a medical. Her expression went from concern to shocked. Sir, you have second-degree burns across 30% of your chest, 3 cracked ribs, severe muscle strain in both arms, and your stress hormones are off the charts. I'm fine, said automatically. You're not fine. You're running on adrenaline and whatever else your body manufactures when you go into that state. In about 10 minutes, you're going to crash hard. She was right, could already feel it. His hands were starting to shake worse. His vision was getting blurry at the edges. The burns on his chest, which he hadn't felt at all during the fight, now hurt like fire. Appeared next to them. His face was pale. Captain, I owe you an apology. I should never have agreed to this meeting. I should have known they would try something. Not your fault, said. His words were slurring. The crash was coming faster than expected. We're getting you to the ship, decided. Can he be moved? Not far, we need a stretcher and... I can walk, interrupted. He tried to stand. His legs immediately buckled again. No, you can't, said firmly. Stop being stubborn. 2 of the freed prisoners brought over an emergency stretcher. They lifted onto it as carefully as possible, climbed up next to her father, holding his hand. Dad, you did the thing again, she said. I know, sweetheart, I'm sorry. Did it hurt? Not during, after, yes. Oh, she thought about this. That's good, I guess. It would be sad if it always hurt. Managed a weak smile. How did you get so smart? I have a smart dad. Even when he does the scary thing, he's still smart enough to stop when Uncle asks. They carried toward the exit. As they passed the observation window, saw his reflection in the glass. Torn uniform, blood everywhere, burns and bruises. He looked like he'd fought a war. Maybe he had. Behind them, reinforcements arrived at the ruined conference room. 50 soldiers in full combat gear. They stopped at the entrance, staring at the destruction. Their commander, a high-ranking officer with elaborate armor, surveyed the scene. His translator device processed his speech into human language. One human did this. Straightened his diplomatic jacket. One human who was pushed beyond his limits. Captain showed remarkable restraint. He could have killed commander, he didn't. He could have continued fighting. He didn't. He stopped as soon as his friend arrived. The commander walked through the wreckage. He examined the torn floor panels, the broken walls, the unconscious guards. We were told humans were weak. easily controlled. "You were told wrong," said coldly. "Captain is not weak. He is disciplined. There is a difference. Discipline means choosing not to do something you're capable of. Weakness means being incapable in the first place." The commander picked up one of the torn metal panels. It was 4 inches thick, reinforced composite designed to survive weapons fire. The edges showed where it had been ripped apart by bare hands. "What is he?" "He's a father who was tortured in front of his child," replied. "He's a soldier who was pushed past his breaking point. He's a human being who proved why you should never mistake our civility for weakness." The commander dropped the panel. It hit the floor with a heavy clang. "The Empire will want him studied, analyzed. We need to understand." "No," his voice was ice. "Captain is leaving with us. Now, your government can file a formal complaint if they wish. But I guarantee you, after this footage reaches the Galactic Council, you'll be too busy apologizing to make demands." He gestured at the security cameras that had recorded everything. "The galaxy is about to learn an important lesson about humanity. I suggest the Empire learn it too." Turned and followed the stretcher carrying out of the room. Behind him, the commander stood in the ruins of his station's diplomatic wing, contemplating what one human had done when pushed too far. The medical bay on the human ship smelled like antiseptic and recycled air. Lay on a recovery bed with his chest wrapped in bandages and diagnostic monitors attached to his temples. The burns from the energy weapons were being treated with regenerative gel. The cracked ribs would heal on their own in a few weeks. The psychological damage would take longer. Sat in a chair next to her father's bed, coloring in a digital notebook. She was drawing a picture of a spaceship. Not any ship recognized. Just a ship from her imagination, with too many windows and wings that made no aerodynamic sense. "That's a nice ship," said quietly. Looked up and smiled. "It's for you, for when you stop being a soldier and become a space captain instead." "I might not be a soldier much longer after this." "Good, soldiers get hurt too much." Walked into the medical bay carrying 2 cups of terrible ship coffee. He handed one to, who accepted it gratefully. The warmth helped with the shaking that still came in waves. "Status report," asked. "All prisoners recovered. No serious injuries on our side. The station has 43 guards with various injuries, none fatal. 3 structural engineers are already complaining about the floor repairs." Closed his eyes. "I remember most of it this time, that's new." "Is that good or bad?" "I don't know yet." Sat down on the edge of the bed. "You held back. Even in that state, you held back. Every guard you put down will recover. You could have killed them easily." "I don't want to kill people. I never want to kill people." "I know, that's what makes you different from a weapon. Weapons don't choose. You still choose, even when your brain is barely functioning." Looked up from her drawing. "Uncle, why does Dad do the thing?" Glanced at, who nodded slightly. They'd agreed long ago that deserved honest answers when she asked questions. "Your dad's brain works a little differently from most people," explained. "When he gets hurt really badly, or when people he loves are in danger, his brain shuts off the parts that feel fear and pain. It keeps only the parts that help him survive and protect others." "Like a survival mode?" asked. "Exactly like that. Have you ever played a video game where your character goes into a special mode when their health gets low? Yeah, they get faster and stronger, but the screen turns red. That's sort of what happens to your dad, except it's real and it's very hard to control." Considered this. So the bad aliens hurt him so much that his brain went into survival mode. "Yes." "And he stopped when you came because your voice reminded him it was safe to turn off survival mode." "That's exactly right. You're very smart." Went back to her drawing. "Okay, that makes sense. Dad, you should tell people not to hurt you too much or you'll go into survival mode. Then they won't do it." "I'll try that next time, sweetheart." Ambassador entered the medical bay looking exhausted. He'd spent the last 3 hours in emergency communications with both the human government and the Galactic Council. His diplomatic jacket was gone, replaced with a simple shirt. He looked years older than when this day had started. Captain said, "We need to talk about what happens next." Court-martial asked. What? No, the opposite. Pulled up a chair. The Empire has issued a formal apology. They're offering reparations. They've recalled Commander and started an investigation into their prisoner protocols. Blinked. That seems excessive. Have you seen the footage? Pulled out a tablet and turned it so could see. The screen showed security camera recordings from the conference room. Watched himself tear through guards and rip apart reinforced flooring. He felt sick. Turn it off. This footage is being broadcast across the Galactic Council networks. Every species with a seat on the council has seen it by now. Do you know what they're saying? That humans are dangerous. No, that humans have been showing remarkable restraint. Leaned forward. For 2 years, we've been fighting for recognition in the galactic community. Other species see us as primitives, weak, easy to manipulate. In one afternoon, you changed that perception completely. By losing control and destroying a diplomatic station. By demonstrating that human self-control is a choice, not a limitation. Stood and started packing. Before today, species liked the thought they could push us around because we seemed physically weaker. Now they understand that our civility isn't weakness, it's discipline. Set down his coffee cup. He's right. I've been monitoring alien communication channels. 3 species that were planning aggressive trade negotiations with human colonies have completely changed their approach. 2 military alliances that excluded us are now requesting talks. Because they're scared of us, said bitterly. Because they respect us, corrected. There's a difference. Fear breeds resentment and eventual conflict. Respect breeds cooperation. Tugged on sleeve. Uncle, are people scared of my dad? Crouched down to her level. Some people are scared, yes, but more people are impressed. Your dad protected himself and other prisoners. He stopped when his friend asked. He didn't hurt anyone more than necessary. That shows control. That shows character. So he's not in trouble. No, he's not in trouble. She went back to her drawing, satisfied. Private Lee entered carrying a, "Sir, the medical analysis is complete. Captain's stress hormones have returned to normal levels. The burns are responding well to treatment. He should be cleared for light duty in 72 hours. Thank you, Private said. Hesitated. Sir, if I may speak freely. Go ahead. What you did today probably saved lives. They were planning to extend the torture sessions to all of us. Once they saw what you could do, they immediately released everyone and apologized. They're terrified of provoking humans again. That's a good thing. She saluted and left. Stood and stretched. I need to file reports with Fleet Command. They'll want a full briefing on the Honey Badger protocol activation. They're still calling it that? Asked. They've upgraded it. It's now the official designation for your response state. They're adding training modules for diplomatic staff on how to recognize the warning signs and how to de-escalate. That makes it sound like I'm a weapon they're learning to use. You're a weapon they're learning not to trigger, corrected. There's a difference. The training focuses on respecting boundaries and avoiding torture scenarios. He left the medical bay, followed after giving an encouraging pat on the shoulder. Rest. You did good today, even if it doesn't feel like it. Alone with his daughter, watched her color. Her small hands moved the stylus across the screen, adding details to her imaginary spaceship. She was humming a song he'd taught her when she was younger, a lullaby from Earth about stars and dreams. Yes, Dad. I'm sorry you had to see me like that. I'm sorry I scared you. She looked up from her drawing with serious eyes. Dad, I told you, I'm not scared of you. I was scared for you. The bad people were hurting you. But the thing I become is still you, just the survival mode version. She put down her stylus and climbed onto the bed next to him, careful to avoid the medical monitors. Uncle says everyone has a survival mode. Most people's just isn't as strong as yours. That's a good way to think about it. I think so too. She snuggled against his side. Mom would be proud of you. You protected people. You came back when Uncle asked. You're a good dad even in survival mode. Felt tears at the corners of his eyes. His daughter's simple acceptance of who he was, all of who he was, meant more than any military commendation or diplomatic victory. When we get home, said sleepily, can we have kimchi stew, the not too spicy kind? We can have whatever you want. And can Uncle come over? Of course. Good, she yawned. I like it when we're all together, it feels safe. She fell asleep against his shoulder, held her carefully, mindful of his injuries. Through the medical bay window, he could see stars streaming past as they traveled toward human space, toward home. His voice came over the intercom. You awake? Yeah. There's someone here who wants to talk to you. Should I send them in? Who is it? Ambassador. He's requesting a private conversation, says it's important. Looked down at, sleeping peacefully. He thought about the destroyed conference room, the injured guards, the torn floor. Send him in. The who entered was older than, with more elaborate markings on his exoskeleton. He moved slowly, respectfully, keeping his distance. His translator device was set to a softer, more humble tone than the arrogant commands had used. Captain said, I come to offer my people's sincere apology. What happened today was a violation of diplomatic protocols and basic decency. Commander has been removed from service. The guards who participated will be disciplined. I don't need apologies, said quietly. I need your people to understand that torture is unacceptable. We understand now, gestured toward the window. We thought we understood strength. We thought it was about pain tolerance, about dominance. Today you taught us that true strength is about control, about choosing not to use your full capability, about stopping when your objective is achieved. I would have preferred to teach that lesson without violence. As would we all, but some lessons are only learned through experience. Pulled a small device from his robes. This contains new protocols for the military and diplomatic corps. No more shock collars, no more pain compliance testing, no more torture of prisoners. We are sharing this with all council species. He placed the device on the table next to his bed. One more thing, said. The galaxy now knows about human survival response. They know what happens when you are pushed too far, but they also know that you stopped, that you controlled it, that you allowed your friend to bring you back. That restraint matters more than any demonstration of force. Bowed, a gesture of deep respect in culture. Then he left. Held his daughter and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning that humanity could be fierce when necessary, but chose kindness when possible. It wasn't the lesson he'd wanted to teach, but maybe it was the lesson the galaxy had needed to learn. Stirred in his arms. Dad, is everything okay? Yes, sweetheart, everything's okay. Good, I love you. I love you too. She fell back asleep, closed his eyes and let himself rest. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more reports, more consequences. But tonight, he was just a father holding his daughter, heading home. 2 weeks after the incident on Station Omega 7, sat in his small apartment on Earth playing a board game with. The game was simple, designed for children, but was winning anyway. She always won. Suspected she was much smarter than her teachers gave her credit for. Dad, you're not paying attention, said. You just lost your main base. Sorry, mind wandered. Were you thinking about the station again? A little bit. She moved her game piece across the board. Uncle says you should stop thinking about it so much. He says you did the right thing and now it's time to rest. Uncle is very wise. He is, that's why I listened to him. She captured another one of his pieces. You should listen to him too. The door chimed, walked in carrying bags of groceries. I brought ingredients for dinner. I thought we could try that recipe we found last week. The one with too many ingredients? Asked. That's the one. Did your dad tell you that I beat him at chess yesterday? No, looked at her father with shock. Dad, Uncle never wins at chess. I was distracted. He was thinking about work again, said, unpacking groceries in the small kitchen. Which is why I'm keeping him busy tonight. No thinking about work, only cooking and bad jokes. The door chimed again. Ambassador entered, looking much better than he had 2 weeks ago. He'd gotten sleep and had returned to his usual professional appearance. He carried a diplomatic under his arm. Sorry to interrupt, said, but you need to see this. I'm on medical leave, protested. This isn't work. This is just information you should have. Pulled up a display on his. The council networks have been broadcasting analysis of the Station Omega-7 incident for 2 weeks. I thought you should know what they're saying. The display showed news reports from across the galaxy. Dozens of species, hundreds of commentators, all discussing what had happened. Played a few clips. A military analyst. The human-designated honey badger demonstrated capabilities far exceeding our previous assessments. However, what's most notable is his restraint. 43 casualties, 0 fatalities. This suggests deliberate control even in an altered mental state. A diplomat. For years, we assumed human negotiating positions came from weakness. We now understand they come from choice. This changes everything about how we approach human trade agreements. A scientist. Our research into the human stress response has revealed something remarkable. Most species have a freeze-or-flee survival mechanism. Humans have a third option, fight. Not just fight, but fight with such intensity that pain and fear become irrelevant. It's terrifying and fascinating in equal measure. Turned off the display. There's more, hours more, but you get the idea. The galaxy is reevaluating humanity. Because they're scared, said. Because they're learning, corrected. 3 things have happened in the past 2 weeks. First, the Empire has completely rewritten their prisoner treatment protocols. No more torture, no more pain compliance tests. They're sharing these new protocols with every council species. Second, 5 different species have requested formal diplomatic meetings with Earth's government. They want trade agreements, defense pacts, cultural exchanges, things they refused to discuss before. And third, asked from the kitchen. Third, the Galactic Council has offered Earth a full member seat, not observer status, full membership with voting rights. The apartment went quiet, even stopped moving her game pieces. That's unexpected, said carefully. It's unprecedented, replied. No species has gone from first contact to full council membership in less than a decade. We were told it would take 50 years, maybe 100. Then one captain showed them what humans are capable of, and everything changed. I didn't do anything special, I just survived. You did something very special. You showed them strength without cruelty, power without abuse. You protected the weak, stopped when asked, and allowed your friend to bring you back from the edge. That's the kind of character the council wants in its members. Tugged on his jacket. Does this mean Dad is famous? In a way, yes. There are species across the galaxy studying the footage, trying to understand what makes humans different. That sounds tiring, said seriously. It is, agreed. Which is why your father has been given the option to retire from active military service with full honors. No more dangerous missions. No more putting himself in situations where the honey badger protocol might activate. Looked at, who shrugged. It's your choice, brother. The military would love to keep you, but they understand if you want out. What would I do instead? Whatever you want, teach, consult, Spend time with your daughter, live a normal life. Climbed into her father's lap. I vote for the last one. Normal life sounds good. Held her close. Yeah, it does. The chimed, checked it, and smiled. There's something else. The government has commissioned a memorial on Station Omega 7. It's called The Warning. It's a statue of a young human girl with a simple plaque. What does the plaque say? Asked. Read from his, it says, listen to warnings, respect boundaries. Understand that civilization is a choice, not a limitation. The child tried to tell us. We should have listened. Felt tears threatening again. The galaxy had learned from his loss of control. They'd turned his worst moment into a lesson about respect and restraint. There's more, continued. Human colonies that were being harassed by pirates or aggressive neighbors have reported immediate cessation of hostile activities. One colony administrator said that a pirate fleet approached their space, scanned them, saw they were human, and immediately jumped away. No communication, no demands, just gone. They're that scared of us? Asked. They're that respectful of us, corrected. There's a difference. Fear breeds resentment, respect breeds peace. Brought over plates of food. Enough politics, let's eat. They had dinner together, the four of them crowded around small table, told stories about school, complained about the terrible coffee in the military commissary, discussed the upcoming diplomatic mission to the council, just listened, grateful for the normalcy. After dinner, left to attend more meetings. Fell asleep on the couch watching an educational program about distant nebulas, and cleaned up the kitchen in comfortable silence. You know what the strangest part is, said quietly, washing dishes. I was trying so hard not to be that person anymore, not to be the honey badger. I wanted to be better. You are better, said. The one from new, he didn't have control, he just had rage. This version of you stopped when I asked. You recognized my voice even in that state. You held back even when your brain was barely functioning. That's growth. It doesn't feel like growth. Growth never does. It feels like struggle, but look at the results. You protected people. You survived. You came back. And now the whole galaxy knows that humans are not to be trifled with. Dried his hands on a towel. Do you think there'll be more incidents, more situations where someone pushes me too far? Honestly, no. The footage is too widely distributed. Every species knows what happens if they torture a human. They know we have survival responses that make us extremely dangerous, but they also know we have friends who can bring us back. They know we choose restraint when possible. So it's over. This chapter is over. What comes next is up to you. Looked at his daughter sleeping on the couch. Her face was peaceful, innocent. He'd spent so long trying to protect her from the violent part of himself, but she'd seen it and still loved him. She understood that survival mode wasn't who he was, it was just a part of him. Maybe that was the real lesson. Not for the galaxy, for himself. He didn't have to be ashamed of what he could become when pushed too far. He just had to choose not to go there unless absolutely necessary. And when he did go there, he had people who would bring him back. I think I'll take that retirement option, said. Spend more time with, maybe teach at the academy. Share what I've learned about survival and restraint. The academy would be lucky to have you. What about you? You going to keep following me around, making sure I don't lose control? Smiled. Someone has to. Besides, we still have that terrible couch to break in. I thought we threw that out. I bought another one. This one's even worse. They both laughed, keeping quiet so they wouldn't wake. Across the galaxy, on a military vessel, a young officer reviewed the training materials that had been distributed to all personnel. The materials included footage from Station Omega 7, psychological analyses of human behavior, and new protocols for interacting with Earth species. The officer's commanding officer stood beside them. What do you think? I think we were fortunate, the young officer said. We could have started a war with Earth. Instead, we learned a valuable lesson, which is that the humans have been very kind to us. They could have responded to our aggression with overwhelming force. Instead, they responded with diplomacy. They showed us their capability only when we forced their hand. That's wisdom. The commanding officer nodded. The Elder Council agrees. New orders have been distributed to all vessels. Human space is to be respected. Human colonists are to be protected. Any officer who causes a diplomatic incident with Earth will face severe consequences. Because we're afraid of them. Because we respect them, there's a difference. The young officer looked at the footage of Captain tearing through reinforced flooring with his bare hands, then at the footage of him stopping immediately when his friend spoke to him. Both aspects of humanity, both equally important to understand. The child tried to warn us, the young officer said quietly. Yes, she did, and now that warning has spread across the entire galaxy. Let us hope we never forget it. Back on Earth, carried his sleeping daughter to her bedroom. He tucked her in, making sure her favorite stuffed animal was within reach. She stirred slightly, opened one eye. Dad. Yeah, sweetheart. Are you happy now? Yes, I'm happy. Good, me too. She fell back asleep immediately, stood in the doorway for a moment watching her breathe. His daughter, his anchor, the reason he always came back from the edge, appeared beside him. She's got your stubbornness. I know, poor kid. It'll serve her well. The galaxy's changing fast. Humans will need people like her. People who aren't afraid to speak truth to power. People who warn others before it's too late. You think she'll be okay, growing up knowing what her father can become. She already knows, and she loves you anyway. That's stronger than any survival mode. Put a hand on shoulder. Come on, you promised to help me assemble that terrible couch. They left's room, closing the door quietly. In the living room, boxes of furniture parts waited to be assembled. They worked together in comfortable silence, occasionally arguing about which piece went where, laughing at the deliberately confusing instructions. It was normal, it was peaceful, it was home. And somewhere in the diplomatic channels of the Galactic Council, a new phrase was being added to the human entry in their database. It was simple, direct, a warning and a promise all at once. Do not provoke past breaking point. If you must test them, listen to the warnings. The children always know. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest or aggression, but through restraint and choice. They'd shown the galaxy that true strength wasn't about how much damage you could cause. It was about how much damage you could prevent. The Honey Badger Protocol would remain in the files, but hopefully it would never need to be activated again. In a small apartment on Earth, a father and his best friend assembled furniture while a little girl slept peacefully in the next room, dreaming of spaceships with too many windows. And the galaxy watched, learned, and remembered to listen when the children give warnings.